So it's Saturday, and usually the last, 9 weeks of the CSA, by Saturday, David and I are just kind of like finishing up the little things that I didn't get done by myself on Fridays. So sorry for kind of the weird video here, but I thought maybe I would do dual purpose recording of a quick video for the CSA while I'm doing some harvesting. So just for a little bit of like context or background, this is the difficult part maybe of growing this time of year. Is like it changes every year too when this point happens, but we are literally at the mercy of the weather being good enough to harvest, because you can't harvest vegetables when it's negative degrees, when it's even freezing degrees, because the plants, while the lettuce has what I will call come out of it, they do sort of take the freeze. And if you cut them while they're frozen, I don't know if you've ever had something like that happen in your own freezer, but essentially it becomes mush because it just screws up the insides of the vegetables. Like, there's actual science behind it. I'm not going to pretend like I know that science super well. I read and watched some videos about it being related to the cell walls of the plants, but I'm not going to try and be like that smart and sciencey. I just know that you can't harvest whenever like leafy greens specifically are frozen. And so, you know, this past week has obviously been very cold. And through the last few years, we've trialed different things that do well into these very cold parts. And I will tell you that if you're ever worried about, like, I don't know, apocalyptical growing, which I doubt you are, but just in case, when we had that Arctic freeze 2-week sub-zero temperatures like 2 years ago, right after Christmas, the things that survived that 2 week of sub-zero temperature were cabbage and Brussels sprouts. And then we had lettuces pop back up. They like got hit pretty hard, were nasty. I left their little roots in the ground just like this because we were just sort of cleaning up afterwards, and they ended up coming back. So it wasn't like it killed them. It just kind of knocked them out. So all that being said, not everything does super well when it's super stinking cold, naturally. And so yesterday I came out here and was, really ambitiously thinking like, I'm gonna get stuff harvested. And I opened up the tunnels, and quite frankly, stuff just looked a little sadder than I felt comfortable harvesting in. And our daytime temps didn't get above freezing until like afternoon time. Now in here it was above freezing, but it was still really cold. Like, this stuff holds some of the temperature inside. So I had texted David and I was like, man, I really want to water. I couldn't get the hoses working right yesterday because the outside temps didn't hit above freezing until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the wind was still blowing and the way the shade falls. So all that being said, I didn't get anything done yesterday with the CSA because it wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right temperature. I would have just ruined everything by trying to harvest it on my timeline. And so that's one of the hard things, I guess, about this is I have a schedule with you guys, and I have a plan, and also I have to hold my plans very loosely in my hands, because ultimately, just like it was whenever I started growing these, like, a lot of this is outside of my control. I don't control the weather, but I can sort of just learn to flex. And if nothing else, growing has taught me to just be super flexible in a lot of different ways. So I'm gonna get to harvesting. Just so you know, your lettuce is coming pre-cut this week. It's beautiful. The freeze did not screw anything up. It looks lovely. It's gonna be perfect. So I'm glad I waited, because yesterday it just looked a little too sad for my liking to come out here and do it. We've blasted these things with some water today, gave them a good drink. We have beautiful weather today, unseasonably 50-something degrees. Tomorrow as well. It looks like we're going to be able to stay uncovered for a couple of days and really just try and give this space some extra love, since it's been so dang cold the last 10 to 15 days. But I'll put like a real quick video after this. Before I do, thank you for being part of the CSA. We greatly appreciate your support of the farm. I hope it's been enjoyable for you and your family. Maybe it gets you doing something a little different, or maybe keeps you doing the same good things that you've already been doing. You just are doing it with our vegetables instead. So thank you for being part of this. I hope you enjoy your last share. All right, so I can't remember if I said earlier that I work really well with a deadline, but man, I work really well with a deadline. We are finished harvesting. Woohoo! Last CSA of 2024. Woohoo! I'm gonna just number one, apologize for what's happening here. Sure wish I might have brushed my hair today. But wanted to quickly go through, not necessarily the vegetables because I already sent that in a text, but just legitimately a couple of meal ideas. I know that I don't know. I think that the last time you guys got a share, I had commented or suggested a sheet pan dinner, and I ended up doing that last night. We had a very busy night in the sense of getting people to a lot of places and just back to back to back. And so I had carrots that were little baby carrots, and that's what's coming in your share this week. Some of them are larger, but for the most part, they're probably 3 or so inches. And these are little baby carrots, perfect for just popping off the tippy tops of them and cutting off the weird little root tip and throwing them on a sheet pan. I took my Brussels sprouts and halved them and threw them on the sheet pan as well. I looked in my vegetable drawer and I had a random beet and a half, a couple of little knobbly turnips left over from previous weeks. So I took those things and just chopped them into large pieces and then put some sausages on them, some brats technically, and threw those into the oven. First, I put olive oil and then honey and seasoning on them, and they were delish. We ate it for lunch today. It was perfect. So I'm just suggesting that again, since you'll have baby carrots in your share as well as Brussels sprouts. It just ended up working out really well. Brussels sprouts are my favorite vegetable, so if you don't want to waste them on a sheet pan dinner, sauteing them, I don't know if it's called sauteing at this point, but braising them. I've seen people roast them. I have more luck doing it on a stove, in a pan on the stove. I don't really do anything special. I don't make them super fancy. I have done balsamic or Parmesan cheese, those kinds of things, but I keep it pretty simple and just try and get them a little bit crispier. Radicchio is kind of a weirder vegetable. It's going to be that small purpley colored head. There's 2 of them in your share. And radicchio is actually pretty bitter as a standalone. So you could mix it into a salad and have it that way and just have it be a different flavor within your salad. I also would suggest maybe a coleslaw. So there's going to be a cabbage in there for you with a couple of the carrots. There's some kohlrabi in there. So you could easily take those things, not even using all of it, but some of each, and make a nice little coleslaw to have a fresh side with them. But something I saw about cooking radicchio, that it's used in Italian kind of dishes. So with some sausage, a white pasta, if you aren't a white pasta fan, you could do it with just I guess good olive oil, garlic, roll them with some, noodles and have the cooked radicchio in there. So those are a couple ways to use that. I already mentioned the cabbage. Coleslaw would be a great thing for that. I actually just really like cabbage if you cut it into either wedges or slices per se and sort of treat it, I don't want to call it a burger or a steak because it certainly isn't a replacement for that, but kind of treating it like that where you heat it hot and sort of let it cook that way, and just season it. That's a nice way of using that up. Kale. I hope you guys aren't sick of kale. This is my old faithful. And so she's in there again for the final time. I'm curious if you taste a difference between the kale that you had previously, or maybe this is not something you're going to notice, but it has been so cold enough that these vegetables, for the most part, like the cabbage, the kale, Brussels sprouts, those things should have a sweeter flavor to them. So I hope they do. I hope you really enjoy them. The honey, it was harvested this year, straight out of Alhambra hives, and so please enjoy. The microgreens are in there also. I'm trying to keep this video short since I already rambled on earlier, but again, I just want to say thank you for being part of the CSA. I will be planning to send out like a survey, essentially. I think that feedback is really, really important. To be perfectly honest, everything didn't go perfectly this year. This season, there's obviously things that can be done better and things that were flops completely, like the potatoes and my winter squash. Like those in my head are the things that I need to nail that next year, because I think that they would have just been perfect complements to what we have. And I missed them not having them. So that's how I know I need to do that next year. But I'm just curious your feedback. Like, was the share a good enough amount? Did it feel like things were coming too much? You know, was it too much lettuce, too much kale? What was your favorite thing? What's something that you wish I would have had included? Also, just it gives me like any kind of feedback that I can use to make next year better. So I will likely not send that out for a couple of days to be quite honest with you. My little boy Daxie's birthday is on Monday, and I am shutting off CSA mode for a couple of days and moving into birthday boy mode so that we can celebrate him, and then probably regrouping before it gets too far into Christmas and the season that follows that. Because in January, I'm already planning for springtime. So thank you again for being part of the CSA. I appreciate your support. David appreciates your support of the farm, and we hope that you have enjoyed this so far and enjoy the very last share.